What is up, YouTube? Juggernaut1 here. Excuse me. I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to hopefully get done an in-depth report about my Nationals experience later, but for now, here's my deck profile of the deck I played at Nationals. Be stunned. Basically, I ended up losing my first two rounds to really BS luck. Round 3, 4, 5, I proceeded to win pretty easily. The first two I won 2-0. The third one I ended up winning 2-1. Pretty close match, but I'll get to that in another vid. And then round 6 round 6 I lost after having to play one of my worst matchups finally, Chaos Dragons. I knew it was going to happen, but I honestly thought I was going to come out on top. But there's nothing you could really do when your opponent drops a bunch of boss monsters on you and you just can't deal with all of them. That's like essentially the only thing you could do at that point is get out a monster that's just bigger than all of them, and I couldn't do it. So yeah, my experience ended pretty much there. I ended up playing around 7 as well just for fun and lost, but I really didn't care about the outcome of the match. So I technically went X3 drop after 6 rounds. But yeah, this is the deck. Made a few changes since the last vid, mainly to the side deck, I think. Yeah, it was mainly changes to the both, one or two changes to the main deck, and then a few changes to the side deck. I'll get to the deck quickly because I don't want to waste your time. But essentially, I really like the deck. My matchup against Dragons and Rabbit wasn't made out of it as favorable as I would have liked it to be, but I still would have rather played this deck over Chaos Dragons for its versatility and the fact that I wasn't really afraid of the side deck as much as I would have been with Dragons, simply put. So yeah, 3 Photon Saber Tigers because Saber Tiger is broken. Well, not completely, but no. 2K meter with skill drain is good, and the fact that he thins out your deck, getting you more Saber Tigers, is an added plus. Stupid allergies. But personally, I think I might have wanted to play Tengu over this if Tengu was still at 3, just because Tengu's a floater, more or less, and he's very powerful. So yeah, I would have probably liked that, but you know what? Whatever. It's perfectly fine. He still did the job he needed to do. I just hated the fact that he got Veilered a few times, that more times than I would have liked him to. 3 Flamvel Fire Dogs. You know what this guy does? He lets you take a fire monster from your deck with 200 defense or less when he destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard. So I wanted to abuse Flame Tiger, which I can special summon for my graveyard if I control no monsters, but I also have to give up my draw phase as a result. This card was useful. It's not a dead draw like Flamvel Magician, basically, so I really like that aspect of it. The only thing is I might drop the Fire Dogs to 2. It's really good, but I don't think it's actually necessary to run 3, just because of how quickly you can run out of targets, and how I don't like I don't think he's very effective once you've run out of targets. So that's just my thing. I may not do that. That's just what I'm thinking right now. For the rest of the monsters, double 8 fighter, because he's great when you don't have skill drain, and he's also great when you do. 1900 meter, but at least he keeps growing and growing and growing. I really like that. Double Barbaros because he's a 3K beater under skill drain, and he's almost a win condition for the deck. Kind of wish I'd run 3 of this and 3 skill drains, but I'll get to that. Really good though. He put in a lot of work. And finally, 2 Thunder Kings because this is a stun deck, so I'm logically going to play Thunder King because it's still a good card in this format. It's not as good as it was last format, but you know what? It's whatever. The only matchup I really didn't like him in was the Inzektor matchup, so otherwise, yeah, he was fine. He did what he needed to do. For the spells, Triple Pot of Duality gives the deck the utmost consistency. I never found myself wanting to only play 2. Like, it can clog in very rare occasions, but usually it's so good. It's so useful. So, because mainly for the fact that it lets, a lot of times I ended up using it to get a Bribe or Starlight Road or Judgment that would just let me comfortably settle my back row, and that was really nice. 2 Chalice and 2 Lance. The Chalices would now Soul Takers, but for the event I use them just as the extra negation. Probably should have just tried to make room for another skill drain as opposed to playing the Chalices. Lance, on the other hand, was absolutely amazing. It's the real reason you play it is because this lets you protect your monsters when they're equipped by Horde. It means they'll be a lot weaker, but that's why you have to use it carefully. Because Horde won't detach, which is nice. It's just that your monster just becomes unaffected by it for the turn, but it's still equipped, which is great. But regardless, it's also a great combat trick, so that's what the real awesomeness out of it as well. So you could use it two ways. And then these cards, I didn't run Heavy Storm. I don't know why people insist on running in this kind of deck, because Heavy Storm might win games. I can understand in Heroes, but here you are reliant, like you have so many cards you want to keep on the field. I don't understand what, like, you know, so many back row you want to keep on the field. So I don't understand why you play Heavy Storm then. Trap cards, we have triple Horde of the Phantom Beast. Sometimes you want this to be 2 Horde of the Phantom Beast because of the matchup, mainly Inzectors, because even though you play Skill Drain, it just makes them destroy your monster at +1. So that's kind of a problem, but at the same time, you know, this card's just really good against everything else. Makes my monster strong enough to get over their dragons, except for Red Eyes, depending on the monster, of course. If it's Barbaros, then it just gets over anyway. If it has 3k attack, that is. Really good card nonetheless. It's one of my favorite cards for a reason, people, because it's just it's an inherent +2, and you just keep crushing your opponent with it and just keep drawing cards, and it's awesome. Double Bottomless, because no priority means you need Bottomless. I mean, Bottomless is just really good. I really do like it in general because I just like it against a lot of matchups. Double Torrential. At first, after the event, I was thinking I would drop this to 1, but in reality, I like this card too much to do that. Double Skill Drain. Like I said, this probably should have been 3, because even if I'm giving up the extra life point gain, and that would probably make me take out Solemn Judgment, I still really did like this card, and for that reason, you know, I wanted to draw it more often, so I guess I wouldn't have mind. Like, it does shut down your Fire Dogs, obviously, but you know what? I don't care. It's usually just worth it. I would rather just play 3, even if it clogs a bit at times. Double Warning, because I'm only playing 2 skill drains, and I wanted the extra removal. Sometimes you just really need Warning. This card would have definitely been played because of the lack of priority. I didn't need to play this card at 2 as much, but you know what? It worked out anyway. Double Bribe. People, let me explain something to you. Dark Bribe is a good card. Just because it lets your opponent draw, it doesn't make it bad. The key thing is you're either going to stop a key card like Dark Holer, Heavy Storm, or you're going to stop one of their cards that lets you beat over their monster or just gain advantage, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. It's just worth it to play. My friend Raph it can explain this to you as well. Oh, and by the way, this is an Out to Royal Decree, people. Remember that. If you set a bunch of back row and you're worried about Decree, now you're safe if they have Heavy Storm or Decree. So there you go. And finally, the one-ofs. One Compulse. Because Compulse is actually very good. I was originally running 2, as you guys know, but I decided to drop the deck to 40 cards. Judgment. And this was a Starlight Road in the deck, but I switched out for the Huge Revolution is over now. This is actually better than Road, simply for the fact that you don't really need a card like the extra advantage. You're more concerned with stopping your opponent's stopping the opponent's card than you are getting a Stardust Dragon. Since that's your main concern, logically, you don't need to play since that's your concern, you don't need to play Starlight Road for that reason. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Yeah, so like I said, those are some of the changes I might make. But, you know, I love the deck. I'm going to play the rest of the format. Simple as that. For the extra deck, we have these Synchros that I never brought out. You don't have to play the Synchros. I'll be quite frank with you. The reason I chose to play them is because they're better than Exceeds monsters a lot, and there are situations where you can bring them out. I also had the space, so I didn't really see a reason not to. This deck doesn't have as much versatility in what cards it can go into compared to decks like Wind-Ups or Inzectors. So I kind of said, let's throw this in Crow, see what happens. For the rank 3s, we have Acid Golem, Leviair, and Zenmates. I'll talk about this more in the in-depth vid, but I did join a team, and I was going to have a Zenmates borrowed anyway, but being a part of the team made it much easier to borrow certain cards, so I had the Zenmates. I was able to borrow the Zenmates. Rank 4s, Pearl, Utopia Ray, also something I borrowed, but I could get my own. Maystroke, Roach, only brought this out once. I was worried a lot about the Chaos Dragon matchup, so I said, screw it, I'm going to play this card. I think the only... What happened? Oh, yeah, the only matchup I brought this out against was actually Junk Doppel. I never did have an opportunity to bring this out against Chaos Dragons. Zenmeister, simply for the fact that he can make my Barbaros a 3k beater while I have no skill trade up. And Papal Imperative, just because it's obviously pretty weak, but unlike Kochi Kochi Dragon, it actually serves a purpose. Kochi Kochi Dragon, people were saying, like, play that, where some people were like, you could play that because it's legal. I couldn't really play that because it didn't really make sense. The only thing it gave me was just a monster that could attack twice and was slightly stronger than the monsters I used as Xyz material. Papal Imperative at least does let me do a bit more, and if I go into it, there's actually a purpose to it. So yeah, so that's the big difference as opposed to going for Kochi Kochi. And then the side deck, quickly, 2 Chiron the Mages for because I sided in 2-dimensional fissures. I didn't like Macro as much because it kept getting shut down by Decree, which, unlike in Rabbit, players aren't necessarily going to side. Unlike Rabbit, where they're not always going to side Decree against you because you don't run that many Macro, they're always going to side Decree against my deck. So I wanted to have a card that let me deal with Chaos Dragons and Dark World while also giving me a bit more flexibility. It still stops cards like Flavel Fire Dog and Horde of the Phantom Beast, which I side out, one of each, but at the same time, it's still very good. For the Inzektor matchup, for example, I don't need it. My matchup should be favorable enough anyway. And Chiron was basically, the thought process with him was, with Chiron, he's, I'm going to tend to side out at least a Flame Tiger and a Fire Dog when I side this out. That seems to be the only time when I side this in. That seems to be the only time I sided out monsters. And Chiron lets me deal with Decrees and other back rows like that, so I really liked it. 2 Prohibition, because it was really good. Let me deal with various cards and various matchups. Double Soul Taker, which are chalices, which are replacing the chalices in the main deck. Triple MST, because back row hate, I don't have any. Deep Prisons, and Shadowmere. Prisons mainly for dragons, Shadowmere is for Inzektors and matchups of the like. Okay, that's pretty much it, guys. I'll do a more in-depth report later. And I'll kind of explain what, other updates with that. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed.